welcome back to my channel. I've got a bit of a different video today. I'm here with my mum. This is Sue.
Hello.
Hello. Having a cup of coffee, as you can see. And we are going to have a bit of a chat about Making a Murderer because, well, firstly, you haven't seen it, have you?
No.
And I haven't done a video on it yet and I really want to. I did a bit of a chat in my vlog a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, I didn't talk about it too much because I didn't want to kind of overload the vlog just talking about that. So yeah, I'm gonna have a bit of a chat about it, but I'm kind of gonna be telling my mum at the same time what it's about, what's happened, the background, that kind of thing. I've definitely got my thoughts on what I think happened not in terms of who did it, because obviously as a viewer, we don't have all the information that you'd need to work that out, but I definitely know whether I think he did it, or whether Steven Avery did it or not. So yeah, so let's just get cracking, let's have a chat. Now, you heard of Making a Murderer?
Yes, I have. Only because you've told me. It's not really my bag.
No, as you know, I love true crime, so I do talk about it quite a lot, even to people that don't really want to hear about it. They hear about it. Okay, so Making a Murderer. Now, there's been 2 seasons of Making a Murderer. The first one was back in 2015, so the season 1 was 2015, and the latest season has just been in the last month in October, so that went live on October the 19th, I think, on Netflix. So Making a Murderer focuses on Steven Avery. He lived on like a big salvage yard with his family, like in a massive amount of land, and you can imagine just there's cars everywhere, like there's just cars covering like all the land, and it's only really his little area with his trailer and his family trailers that aren't covered in cars. Back in 1985, he was convicted for assaulting and raping a lady on the beach in Wisconsin. He actually ended up serving 18 years, and during the time he served, I believe several people came forward to say they knew he hadn't done it. I think one person even said, actually it was me, actually said they did it. In fact, it was a man called Andrew Colborn, I remember that name.
Andrew Colborn?
Sergeant Andrew Colborn,
a
policeman, took the phone call, or dealt with the phone call in some manner regarding whoever it was that come forward and said, actually I did it, I assaulted and raped this woman. It was Andrew Colborn who took that phone call, or was somehow involved in that process. But he'd been in jail for 18 years, so in 2003 he then was exonerated because of new DNA evidence that proved he hadn't committed the crime. He definitely couldn't have assaulted the lady in question. So yeah, so he was in prison for 18 years when he shouldn't have been, basically.
So he's quite a young lad when he first went in there.
Yeah, because he's in his 50s now, and so yeah, I think 55 now. So he would have been about, he would have been, well, it's 33 years ago, isn't it? So he would have been like 22, 23. Yeah, so yeah, in his early 20s, so quite young.
Wow.
So yeah, to go from like in your early 20s to basically in your early 40s.
Yeah.
And you've been in prison all that time, yeah, it's crazy really, especially when it's proved he definitely didn't do it. So then in 2003, he decides to sue Manitowoc County for unlawful conviction, unlawful imprisonment, and all the kind of issues surrounding that. And he is granted a $36 million lawsuit. When I say granted, he wasn't actually awarded the money, but I think it was about to be approved. So he was very close to getting that money approved.
So he hadn't got any money at this stage?
He hadn't got any money at this stage. He's going forward with this lawsuit. And I think it was 2 years later, so I think it's in 2005, he, actually let me just check that because it's quite an important fact really. Okay, so yeah, then fast forward to 2005, so his civil lawsuit is still pending. We're now in November 2005, okay, it's towards the end of 2005. A lady called Teresa Hallback, who works for Auto Trader, but she often does like off-the-cuff photo shoots, so ones that aren't through Auto Trader basically. It's just like, you know, private, like freelance type thing. He has an appointment to go and see cars at Avery's salvage yard, and that is the last she's seen. And the only people who say they saw her last are in the Avery family. She's gone missing, no one's seen her, and then so that a search party gets sent out. So you have all these people searching for her. I think it was a week or 2 weeks later, her car is found. Where do you think her car's found?
On the Avery land. On the
Avery land. So this was all explained in season 1. When I was watching it, my first thought was, they have a salvage yard.
Yeah.
They crush properties.
They've been crushed
for a living. If you've done something like that and you've got the evidence, i.e. her car, why would you leave it on the land just covered in a few branches? It wasn't, like the pictures I've seen of it, it's not even that well hidden. It's just got a few branches on top, but I think these sorts of things are edited. You don't really know how they happened and what order they happened in. But he, so when they found the car, they phoned it into the police, obviously said we found the car. Didn't say where they'd found the car, the response from the police was, has Steven Avery been taken yet?
Right. Okay.
And they made it sound on the programme like they hadn't even said where the car was.
Right.
The police just wanted to know if Steven Avery had been taken
Right.
in when...
Right.
So they found the car, and so therefore now they've got a warrant to search. Now they've got, you know, a permission, so to speak, to search the rest of the Avery property because they found her car. Basically suggesting she was last here. This is where she's gone.
Where the
she
car
is, basically. Yeah. So yeah, that's what they do. They search the Avery land, and as I understand it, they've searched it quite a few times before they found anything else. And then all of a sudden, I think this is after the 4th or 5th time of searching, all of a sudden they're in Steven Avery's trailer and they find her car key in his bedroom. And they've searched that quite a few times before. This isn't the first time they've searched it. And they suddenly find the key. And then there's quite a few other things they find. Like they find supposedly her bones in like the burn pit, and quite a few other random bits that they find. Like they find a bullet on the floor in the garage, and you know, they're like, oh, it must be the bullet. There's quite a few things essentially pointing to Steven. Oh yeah, one of the other things was in her car there was blood. So they found blood, and it was Steven Avery's blood.
Oh.
Like literally spotted all around the car.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if any of it was her blood as well, or whether it was just his, but it was definitely his found in the car. We've got quite a bit of evidence on him. So they've got the supposed bullet, they've got bones, they've got blood evidence, they've got this extra DNA, and of course the car's been found on the property. So it's all looking quite bad for him, really. It's all pointing to him. So he's arrested awaiting trial. His nephew, Brendan. Now I think and I assume that all of the family members would have been interviewed, Brendan included. I don't remember what they had on Brendan to make him come in for like a severe questioning. I'm assuming they did it to all the family. But yeah, they questioned his nephew Brendan, and Brendan has obviously suffers with quite severe learning difficulties, has very low IQ. He's, you know, you can tell from when you see the clip of him being interviewed, he isn't comfortable with it at all. He's very sort of not really sure what they're saying or what
sort of age is Brendan?
At this point, I think he was either 16 or 18.
Okay.
So he's a teenage lad with learning difficulty. When you watch the video, the kind of way they question him is very full on. You know what happened, Brendan, don't you? You know what happened to your uncle. You know your uncle did it. You know, they're kind of forcing information into him. And of course, as a young lad who doesn't really understand what's going on, he doesn't understand the seriousness of it. And obviously, like even kids who do understand what's going on, they get bored in a situation, they just want to be let out, and they end up perhaps saying things that make them think they're going to get out.
Exactly.
So when I've watched it a few times, and I would say he's definitely, like, it's not a normal chat where he's just offered the information out. He's definitely been forced out of him. Brendan essentially confesses.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, but yeah, they're forcing this out of him, and he does end up saying...
What, he confesses that he done it?
He confesses that him and Steven Avery
both
did
of
it
them
together, yeah.
Together.
Yeah, he said his story changes quite a lot. So they stab her, they do always stab her, that stays in the story. They apparently rape her, apparently he rapes her, Brendan rapes her.
Right.
And apparently they shoot her outside. Then I think the police then say, but was she not shot in the garage, Brendan? And he's like, oh yeah, she was shot in the garage. So each time they're kind of, you know, saying more to get it to whatever evidence they've already found, and they want this story to come together. So they've been at the Avery property, they found this evidence, they found this bullet inside the garage. They've got Brendan who's basically confessing, but Brendan's saying she was shot outside. It doesn't match what they've got, so they need him to say she was shot in the garage. Right. Then it all perfectly matches their little story.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, so that's season 1 basically. So at the end of season 1, you've got Brendan confessing, you've got Steven Avery arrested, and then it follows a bit of the trial and the fact they both get convicted.
Both in prison now.
But they're both convicted, they're both found guilty. I think Steven's is life without parole, and then Brendan's is life with parole after so many years.
He's a younger person.
Yeah, but he'll still be like in his 60s when he gets out. So Q season 2, which started in October, and this has been filming over the last sort of year or so. Right. I think since 2006 actually, beginning of 2006. You've now got a lady called Kathleen Zellner, who is the new defence attorney for Steven Avery. Now she's an appeals lawyer, so that's what she does. She works on appeals, works on overturning convictions. Okay. And yeah, I really, really liked her, and I think a lot of her explaining things in the next season makes what you've heard in the first season just sound so silly and sound so crazy that they got away with prosecuting them for the things they did. Obviously I don't know if they did it or not, but obviously you have your thoughts on what you think. But from the way they got them prosecuted, the way they actually got both of them convicted is laughable. There's definitely reasonable doubt based on how they got them convicted.
Right.
So basically Kathleen Zellner comes along in season 2 and she just wipes the floor with all the evidence that they presented.
Really?
She shows how a lot of it couldn't have happened. Brendan Dassey, who's the one that's been convicted, he's the nephew that's been convicted, his brother Bobby was one of the key witnesses for the prosecution. So he was the one who said that he saw Teresa walk to Steven's trailer but never saw her leave the property. He was found to have loads of horrible, horrific images on his computer, like disgusting images of women being killed, like sexual pictures of women, like awful, like extreme.
Wow.
On his computer. And apparently a lot of them did look like this Teresa Hallback. Not that obviously weren't her, but they looked the same sort of physique and look and everything. And the way that wasn't ever really spoken about in the original trial is because they hid that file by calling it Brendan's computer. And so obviously when the defence were looking into all the information to gather up all their evidence to show it wasn't him, they would have just seen this kind of thing had been inputted called Brendan's computer. As far as they're concerned, it isn't something they need to look into because they're working the Steven Avery case, not the Brendan Dassey case. Yes, they're linked to the same murder, but they obviously have different defence teams supporting them, so they wouldn't have necessarily thought of that as of any interest to them. But it was actually Bobby Dassey's computer, and therefore Bobby Dassey, being a star witness for the prosecution, would have interested the defence. So yeah, another one of the biggest, weirdest things I think is there was a guy who had actually seen Teresa's car pushed up to some bushes. So he was just going to the shops, he'd seen this car on the way to the shops, like just tucked into bushes, like just car just pushed off. You know, sometimes you're driving along, you see a car like in the verge, just been pushed off, there's been an accident and the police have left it or something. You don't necessarily think too much of it. This was when everyone was looking for her, so this was before her car had obviously been found, and this was before any proof that she'd been near, any proof that she'd sort of gone missing at this Avery property kind of thing. This was still when they were looking for her. And so he drove to the shop, and so there was these posters everywhere, like, you know, in all the shops I assume. This one had one on the front, it had a picture of Teresa and it had a picture of her car. And he said he saw the picture and he thought, oh, I've just seen that car. And then a police officer walked in and he told the police officer, he said, I've just seen that car at the road. He assumed the police officer would then go and investigate it and do whatever they needed to do to kind of work out what the car was and stuff and what he was doing there. The guy who said he didn't hear anything of it, and then he was actually watching season 1 of Making a Murderer, and he saw the man who he'd reported the missing car to. So that was Sergeant Andrew Colborne, who was involved in not sorting out the
Wow.
So the same man essentially potentially screwed Steven over. Obviously, because Steven and Brendan are both in jail, they don't talk to the camera in this programme. It's all their friends and family who are telling their story on their behalf, or it's like the narrator telling it. And it's you hear snippets of them talking from jail, so you hear their conversations on the phone to people from jail, but obviously they're not just sitting there chatting because they're in prison. But a lot of the time it's people like Steven Avery's parents do a lot of the chatting on his behalf, and Steven Avery's family, and obviously Kathleen Zellner is the biggest kind of narrator in it. She talks through a lot of it. But for Brendan, it's his mum and his mum's new husband, who's a guy called Scott, who actually knew the guy that saw the car and reported the car. And so because nothing had come of it, and because the programme clearly showed that no one had mentioned the car had been seen in this verge, he also contacted this Scott, who's Brendan's mum's partner, and said, I really need to tell you something, I saw the car, blah, blah, blah. And this Scott didn't reply to him. So he texted him again and said, look, I really need to talk to you. Like, I saw the car, I reported it at the time. I saw the car wasn't on the Avery property. Like, I knew I'd seen it before, that kind of thing. And Scott just replied saying, sorry, I've been really ill, can't get back to you, or something like that. It was really defensive. It's just like, oh, sorry, I can't get back to you. And if you think your stepson is currently in jail for something, and this guy can probably help unravel it and, you know, show that he's not guilty, or Steven Avery and he is not guilty, he just for him to say, I'm sorry, I'm sick, I can't talk to you. It also turns out that car was parked very close to this Scott's property. So where this Scott lived at the time is very close to where this car was, this man saw the car, and that house is where actually they live now. So where Scott and Brendan's mum live now was close to where this guy saw the car before it was found on the Avery property.
She may have been on that property taking photos for
Yeah.
For him or?
Yeah.
Or
She may, I mean, that's the thing, with this thing that they used to do, I'm saying used to because I don't know if it's still a thing, but with this kind of private freelance work that's out of the kind of realms of going through Auto Trader, she would often be held down by people. Like, she would just be driving along, people knew who she was and would just call her over to go and take a photo.
Yeah, cool.
And that was one of Kathleen's theories, that she had left the Avery property, and she was held down by people like this Scott, potentially maybe. Bobby was involved as well. I do think the Scott and Bobby Dassey link, the way she said they worked together, and there was also the ex-boyfriend of Teresa Hallback. He led the search party, yet there's a lot of things to show that they didn't really get on, or Teresa didn't really like him when she was here. But he had access to her house, he had access to a lot of her documentation, including her calendar, and he was leading the search party that did end up finding her car. Yeah, so for me personally, I'm definitely inclined to think that he's innocent and he's just been framed really badly on this. But yeah, obviously you haven't seen it, but from hearing all of that, like, what do you think?
Yeah, there's too many grey areas, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen it, it's only what you're telling me. But
and I'm a bit biased because I think he's innocent, so I suppose I'm telling you in a way that might make it sound more bad. Like, I'm in sort of pushing for one side that aren't I?
Yeah, well, I still, because I haven't, not so into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't go one way or the other, you know. But there are things that do make you wonder why. Really, why? How did it get that far?
Yeah. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Just a little bit of an impromptu kind of coffee chat, chit chat. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and please subscribe in the link below, and I shall see you next week. Bye.